Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we are continuing to hear the unfolding of the universal history. Right here in Radha Lane. We welcome all of you out there in cyberspace who are now 1,350 strong, or maybe it's a little less, 1,300 something strong. And thank you, sir, so very much for your encouragement. I've also been hearing a lot of positive feedback from around this community and other communities, from devotees who are greatly appreciating the taste that they're getting from reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And even got one comment that because I'm doing this every single day, no matter what, broken arm or whatever, that the Bhagavatam is beginning to seem real to that devotee. And that really touched me as a deep thing to say, that they're feeling the Bhagavatam has become real because we're reading it every single day without fail. So, thank you all, one and all. All right, Sanatana Goswami is calling us to hear about the Srimad-Bhagavatam, what it is, how wonderful it is. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava by Srila Sanatana Goswami, the senior disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwanduditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaka Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Tasadu saduta dayin atini chochatakada hanamunchagadachin mam premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 All right. We've reached the 17th chapter of the 4th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and we've heard the glories of Prthu Maharaj, who is a Shaktivesh, a part of a plenary portion of Sri Krishna, an empowered incarnation. And we've heard from Srila Prabhupada a lot about what proper leadership is, what proper government is, and how the measure of the success of an actual leader in human society is how satisfied the citizens are, not how satisfied the king or the president or the ruler is. And this is quite enlightening. We've been hearing about this for days now, few days. So now we're going to hear about Maharaj Prthu's activities, because remember, one of the things that Maharaj Prthu said in response to the glorifications of all the people, all the devotees that came from around the universe, was that Maharaj Prthu didn't approve of getting praised before he did anything, because he just arrived and everybody recognized him as an incarnation. They saw the marks on his hands, they saw the marks on the bottoms of his feet, and even Lord Brahma and the other highest authorities of the universe were all worshipping him as an incarnation of Krishna. But he's saying, don't praise me until I've done something that deserves praise. He said such praise is tantamount to an insult. So now we're going to hear about the things that he did which confirmed the praising that we've just heard. Chapter 17. Maharaj Prthu becomes angry at the earth. Text 1. The great sage Maitreya continued. In this way, the reciters who were glorifying Maharaj Prthu readily described his qualities and chivalrous activities. At the end, Maharaj Prthu offered them various presentations with all due respect and worshipped them accordingly, adequately. Text 2. King Prthu, thus satisfied, and offered all respect to all the leaders of the Brahmanas and other castes, to his servants, to the ministers, and to the priests, citizens, general countrymen, people from other communities, admirers, and others, and thus they all became happy. So this is a little different, huh? He's offering respect to all these people rather than criticizing them. Text 3. Vidura inquired from the great sage Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, since Mother Earth can appear in different shapes, why did she take the shape of a cow? And when Prthu milked her, who became the calf? And what was the milking pot? Text 4. The surface of the earth is by nature low in some places and high in others. How did King Prthu level the surface of the earth? And why did the king of heaven, Indra, steal the horse meant for the sacrifice? Text 5. The great saintly king, Maharaj Prthu, received knowledge from Sanat Kumara, who was the greatest Vedic scholar. After receiving knowledge to be applied practically in his life, how did the saintly king attain his desired destination? Purport. There are 4 Vaishnava sampradayas, systems of disciplic succession. One sampradaya comes from Lord Brahma, one from the goddess of fortune, one from the Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumara, and one from Lord Shiva. These 4 systems of disciplic succession are still going on. As King Prthu has illustrated, one who is serious about receiving transcendental Vedic knowledge must accept a guru or spiritual master in one of these 4 disciplic successions. It is said that unless one accepts a mantra from one of these sampradayas, the so-called mantra will not act in Kali Yuga. Many sampradayas have sprung up without authority, and they are misleading the people by giving unauthorized mantras. The rascals of these so-called sampradayas do not observe the Vedic rules and regulations. Although they are addicted to all kinds of sinful activities, they still offer the people mantras and thus mislead them. Intelligent persons, however, know that such mantras will never be successful, and as they are never, and as such, they never patronize such upstart spiritual groups. People should be very careful of these nonsensical sampradayas. To get some facility for sense gratification, unfortunate people in this age receive mantras from these so-called sampradayas. Prthu Maharaj, however, showed by his example that one should receive knowledge from a bona fide sampradaya. Therefore, Maharaj Prthu accepted Sanat Kumara as his spiritual master. Texts 6 and 7. Prthu Maharaj was a powerful incarnation of Lord Krishna's potencies. Consequently, any narration concerning his activities is surely very pleasing to hear, and it produces all good fortune. As far as I am concerned, I am always your devotee, as well as a devotee of the Lord, who is known as Adhoksaja. Please therefore narrate all the stories of King Prthu, who in the form of the son of King Vena milked the cow-shaped earth. Purport. Lord Krishna is also known as Avatari, which means one from whom all the incarnations emanate. In Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Lord Krishna says, Ahang sarvasya prabhavo, mattak sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Thus, Lord Krishna is the origin of everyone's appearance. As far as this material world is concerned, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are all emanations from Krishna. These three incarnations of Krishna are called Guna avatars. The material world is governed by the three material modes of nature, and Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva, respectively, take charge of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Maharaj Prthu is also an incarnation of those qualities of Lord Krishna, by which one rules over conditioned souls. In this verse, the word adhoksaja, meaning beyond the perception of the material senses, is very significant. No one can perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead by mental speculation. Therefore, a person with a poor fund of knowledge cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since one can form only an impersonal idea on the strength of one's material senses, the Lord is known as Adhoksaja. Text 8. Sutta Goswami continued. When Vidura became inspired to hear the activities of Lord Krishna in his various incarnations, Maitreya, also being inspired and being very pleased with Vidura, began to praise him. Then Maitreya spoke as follows. So for those of you who are not versed or informed, there's many layers of conversations going on here. Shukadeva Goswami is speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. That's the first time the Bhagavatam was spoken. And then Sutta Goswami was there when Shukadeva Goswami spoke to Maharaj Parikshit, and he memorized it completely just by hearing it once. And so when he later participated in this Naimisharanya, great 1,000-year sacrifice, thank you. He was the one that was spontaneously selected by all of the sages to recite the Bhagavatam, because they knew he had heard it from Shukadev. And as he's explaining it, he's explaining different questions that are being asked to him. He's explaining the answers that other great personalities asked and got answers. And some of them are referring to previous authorities who asked questions and got answers. So like that, there's many layers of conversations going on, but it's all the same thread. Okay, Text 8. Sutta Goswami continued, when Vidura was inspired to hear of the activities of Lord Krishna, his various incarnations, Maitreya, also being inspired and being very pleased with Vidura, began to praise them. Then Maitreya spoke as follows. Purport. Talk of Krishna Katha, or topics about Lord Krishna or his incarnations, is spiritually so inspiring that the reciter and the hearer are never exhausted. That is the nature of spiritual talks. We have actually seen that one can never become satiated by hearing the conversations between Vidura and Maitreya. Both of them are devotees. And the more Vidura inquires, the more Maitreya is encouraged to speak. A symptom of spiritual talks is that no one feels tired. Anybody feeling tired? No? Me neither. There you go. A symptom of spiritual talks is that no one feels tired. Thus, upon hearing the questions of Vidura, the great sage, Maitreya, did not feel disgusted, but rather felt encouraged to speak at greater length. Text 9. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, at the time King Prthu was enthroned by the great sages and brahmanas and declared to be the protector of the citizens, there was a scarcity of food grains. The citizens actually became skinny due to starvation. Therefore they came before the king and informed him of their real situation. Purport. Information is given herein concerning the selection of the king by the brahmanas. According to the Varnashram system, the brahmanas are considered to be the heads of the society and therefore to be situated in the topmost social position. The Varnashram Dharma, the institution of 4 Varnas and 4 ashramas, is very scientifically designed. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Varnashram Dharma is not a man-made institution, but is God-made. In this narration it is clearly indicated that the Brahmanas used to control the royal power. When an evil king like Vena ruled, the Brahmanas would kill him through their Brahminical powers and would select a proper ruler by testing his qualifications. In other words, the Brahmanas, the intelligent men or sages, great sages, would control the monarchical powers. Here we have an indication of how the Brahmanas elected King Prthu to the throne as the protector of the citizens. The citizens, being skinny due to hunger, approached the king and informed him that necessary action should be taken. The structure of the Varnashram Dharma was so nice that the Brahmanas would guide the head of state. The head of state would then give protection to the citizens. The Kshatriyas would take charge of protecting the people in general, and under the protection of the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas would protect the cows, produce food grains, and distribute them. Shudras, the working class, would help the higher 3 class by manual labor. This is the perfect social system. Texts 10 and 11. Dear King, just as a tree with a fire burning in the hollow of the trunk gradually dries up, we are drying up due to the fire of hunger in our stomachs. You are the protector of surrendered souls, and you have been appointed to give employment to us. Therefore we have all come to you for protection. You are not only a king, but the incarnation of God as well. Indeed, you are the king of all kings. You can give us all kinds of occupational engagements, for you are the master of our livelihood. Therefore, O King of all kings, please arrange to satisfy our hunger by the proper distribution of food grains. Please take care of us, lest we soon die for want of food. Purport. It is the duty of the king to see that everyone in the social orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras, is fully employed in the state. Just as it is the duty of the Brahmanas to elect a proper king, it is the duty of the king to see that all the Varnas, Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, and Shudra, are fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. It is here indicated that although the people were allowed to perform their duties, they were still unemployed. Although they were not lazy, they still could not produce sufficient food to satisfy their hunger. When the people are perplexed in this way, they should approach the head of government, and the president or king should take immediate action to mitigate the distress of the people. Text 12. Maitreya, after hearing this pitiable After hearing this lamentation and seeing the pitiable condition of the citizens, King Prthu contemplated this matter for a long time to see if he could find out the underlying causes. 13. Having arrived at a conclusion, the king took up his bow and arrow and aimed them at the earth, exactly like Lord Shiva, who destroys the whole world out of anger. Purport. King Prthu found out the cause for the scarcity of food grains. He could understand that it was not the people's fault, for they were not lazy in executing their duties. Rather, the earth was not producing sufficient food grains. This indicates that the earth can produce sufficiently if everything is properly arranged. But sometimes the earth can refuse to produce food grains for various reasons. The theory that there is a scarcity of food grains due to an increase of population is not very sound theory. There are other causes that enable the earth to produce profusely or to stop producing. King Prthu found out the proper causes and took the necessary steps immediately. Text 14. When the earth saw that King Prthu was taking his bow and arrow to kill her, she became very much afraid and began to tremble. She then began to flee exactly like a deer, which runs very swiftly when followed by a hunter. Being afraid of King Prthu, she took the shape of a cow and began to run. Purport. Just as a mother produces various children, both male and female, the womb of Mother Earth produces all kinds of living entities in various shapes. Thus it is possible for Mother Earth to take on innumerable shapes. At this time, in order to avoid the wrath of King Prthu, she took the shape of a cow. Since a cow is never to be killed, Mother Earth thought it wise to take the shape of a cow in order to avoid King Prithu's arrows. King Prthu, however, could understand this fact, and therefore he did not stop chasing the cow-shaped earth. Text 15. Seeing this, Maharaj Prthu became very angry, and his eyes became as red as the early morning sun. Placing an arrow on his bow, he chased the cow-shaped earth wherever she would run. Text 16. The cow-shaped earth ran here and there in outer space between the heavenly planets and the earth, and wherever she ran, the king chased her with his bow and arrows. Text 17. Just as a man cannot escape the cruel hands of death, the cow-shaped earth could not escape the hands of the son of Vena. At length, the earth, fearful, her heart aggrieved, turned back in helplessness. Text 18. Addressing the great opulent King Prthu as the knower of religious principles and the shelter of the surrendered, she said, "Please save me. You are the protector of all living entities. Now you are situated as the king of this planet." Purport. The cow-shaped earth addressed King Prthu as Dharmagya, which refers to one who knows the principles of religion. The principles of religion dictate that a woman, a cow, a child, a brahmana, and an old man must be given all protection by the king or anyone else. Consequently, Mother Earth took the shape of a cow. She was also a woman. Thus she appealed to the king as one who knows the principles of religion. Religious principles also dictate that one is not to be killed if he surrenders. She reminded King Prthu that not only was he an incarnation of God, but he was situated as the king of the earth as well. Therefore his duty was to excuse her. Text 19. The cow-shaped earth continued to appeal to the king. I am very poor and have not committed any sinful activities. I do not know why you want to kill me. Since you are supposed to be the knower of all religious principles, why are you so envious of me? And why are you so anxious to kill a woman? Purport. The earth appealed to the king in two ways. A king who knows religious principles cannot kill anyone who has not committed sinful activities. Apart from this, a woman is not to be killed, even if she does commit some sinful activities. Since the earth was innocent and was also a woman, the king should not kill her. Text 20. Even if a woman does commit some sinful activity, no one should place his hand upon her. And what to speak of you, dear king, who are so merciful? You are a protector, and you are affectionate to the poor. 21. The cow-shaped earth continued. My dear king, I am just like a strong boat, and all the paraphernalia of the world is standing upon me. If you break me into pieces, how can you protect yourself and your subjects from drowning? Purport. Beneath the entire planetary system is the Garbha water. Lord Vishnu lies on this Garbha water, and from his abdomen a lotus stem grows, and all the planets within the universe are floating in the air, being supported by this lotus stem. If a planet is destroyed, it must fall into the water of Garbha. The earth therefore warned King Prthu that he could gain nothing by destroying her. Indeed, how would he protect himself and his citizens from drowning the Garbha water? In other words, outer space may be compared to an ocean of air, and each and every planet is floating on it, just as a boat or island floats on the ocean. Sometimes planets are called dvipa, or islands, and sometimes they are called boats. Thus, the cosmic manifestation is partially explained in this reference by the cow-shaped earth. Text 22. King Prthu replied to the earthly planet, My dear earth, you have disobeyed my orders and rulings. In the form of a demigod, you accepted your share of the yajnas we performed, but in return you have not produced sufficient food grains. For this reason I must kill you. Purport. The cow-shaped earthly planet submitted that she was not only a woman, but was innocent and sinless as well. Thus she argued that she should not be killed. Besides, she pointed out that being perfectly religious-minded, the king should not violate the religious principles that forbade killing a woman. In reply, Maharaja Prthu informed her that first of all, she had disobeyed his orders. This was her first sinful activity. Secondly, he accused her of taking her share of the yajnas, sacrifices, but not producing sufficient food grains in return. Text 23. Although you are eating green grass every day, you are not filling your milk bag so we can utilize your milk. Since you are willfully committing offenses, it cannot be said that you are not punishable due to your assuming the form of a cow. Purport. A cow eats green grass in the pasture and fills her milk bag with sufficient milk so that the cowherdsmen can milk her. Yajnas, sacrifices, are performed to produce sufficient clouds that will pour water on the earth. The word payat can refer both to milk and to water. As one of the demigods, the earthly planet was taking her shape in the yajna, her share in the yajnas. That is, she was eating green grass, but in return she was not producing sufficient food grains. That is, she was not filling her milk bag. Prthu Maharaj was therefore justified in threatening to punish her for her offense. Text 24. You have so lost your intelligence that despite my orders, you do not deliver the seeds of herbs and grains formerly created by Brahma and now hidden within yourself. Purport. While creating all the planets in the universe, Lord Brahma also created the seeds of various grains, herbs, plants, and trees. When sufficient water falls from the clouds, the seeds fructify and produce fruits, grains, vegetables, etc. By his example, Prthu Maharaj indicates that whenever there is a scarcity in food production, the head of the government should take steps to see why production is being held up and what should be done to rectify the situation. Text 25. Now with the help of my arrows, I shall cut you to pieces, and with your flesh satisfy the hungry, stricken citizens who are now crying for want of grains. Thus I shall satisfy the crying citizens of my kingdom. Purport. Here we find some indication of how the government can arrange for the eating of cow flesh. It is here indicated that in a rare circumstance, when there is no supply of grains, the government may sanction the eating of meat. However, when there is sufficient food, the government should not allow the eating of cow's flesh just to satisfy the fastidious tongue. In other words, in rare circumstances when people are suffering for want of grains, meat eating or flesh eating can be allowed, but not otherwise. The maintenance of slaughterhouses for the satisfaction of the tongue and the killing of animals unnecessarily should never be sanctioned by a government. As described in a previous verse, cows and other animals should be given sufficient grass to eat. In spite of sufficient supply of grass, if, despite a sufficiently supply of grass, a cow does not supply milk, and if there is an acute shortage of food, the dried up cow may be utilized to feed the hungry masses of people. According to the law of necessity, first of all, human society must try to produce food grains and vegetables, but if they fail in this, they can indulge in flesh eating. Otherwise not. As human society is presently structured, there is sufficient production of grains all over the world. Therefore, the opening of slaughterhouses cannot be supported. In some nations there is so much surplus grain that sometimes extra grain is thrown into the sea, and sometimes the government forbids further production of grain. The conclusion is that the earth produces sufficient grain to feed the entire population, but the distribution of this grain is restricted due to trade regulations and a desire for profit. Consequently, in some places there is scarcity of grain, and in others profuse production. If there were one government on the surface of the earth to handle the distribution of grain, there would be no question of scarcity, no necessity to open slaughterhouses, and no need to present false theories about overpopulation. Text 26. Any cruel person, be he a man, woman, or impotent eunuch, who is only interested in his personal maintenance and has no compassion for other living entities, may be killed by the king. Such killing can never be considered actual killing. Purport. The planet Earth is actually a woman in her constitutional form, and as such, she needs to be protected by the king. Prthu Maharaj argues, however, that if a citizen within the state, be he man, woman, or eunuch, is not compassionate upon his fellow men, he or she may be killed by the king, and such killing is never to be considered actual killing. As far as the field of spiritual activities is concerned, when a devotee is self-satisfied and does not preach the glories of Krishna, he is not considered a first-class devotee. A devotee who tries to preach who has compassion upon innocent persons who have no knowledge of Krishna, is a superior devotee. In his prayer to the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj said that he was not personally interested in liberation from this material world. Rather, he did not wish to be liberated from this material condition until all fallen souls were delivered. Even in the material field, if a person is not interested in others' welfare, he should be considered to be condemned by this personality of Godhead, or his incarnation, like Prthu Maharaj. Text 27. You were very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grain, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. Purport. The earth informed King Prthu that if he destroyed her, he and his subjects would all fall down into the waters of the Garbha ocean. King Prthu now replies to that point. Although the earth assumed the shape of a cow by her mystic powers in order to be saved from being killed by the king was aware of this fact and would not hesitate to cut her to pieces, just like small bits of grain. As far as the destruction of the citizens is concerned, Maharaj Prthu maintained that he could uphold everyone by his own mystic powers. He did not need the help of the earthly planet. Being the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Prthu Maharaj possessed the power of Sankarsana, which is explained by the scientists as the power of gravitation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is holding millions of planets in space without any support. Similarly, Prthu Maharaj would not have any difficulty supporting all his citizens and himself in space without the help of the planet Earth. The Lord is known as Yogeshwar, master of all mystic powers. Consequently, the planet Earth was informed by the king that she need not worry about his standing without her help. Text 28. At this time, Prthu Maharaj became exactly like Yamaraj, and his whole body appeared very angry. In other words, he was anger personified. After hearing him, the planet Earth began to tremble. She surrendered, and with folded hands began to speak as follows. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is death personified to the miscreants, and the Supreme Beloved Lord to the devotees. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Mrityu sarva haraschaham. I am all-devouring death. Faithless unbelievers who challenge the appearance of God will be delivered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he appears before them as death. Hiranyakashipu, for example, challenged the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord met him in the form of Nrsingadev and killed him. Similarly, the planet Earth saw Maharaj Prthu as death personified, and she also saw him in the mood of anger personified. Therefore she began to tremble. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in any circumstance. It is better to surrender unto him and take his protection at all times. Text 29. The planet Earth spoke, My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, you are transcendental in your position, and by your material energy you have expanded yourself in various forms and species of life through the interaction of the three modes of material nature. Unlike some other masters, you always remain in your transcendental position and are not affected by the material creation, which is subject to different material interactions. Purport. After King Prthu gave his royal command, the planet Earth, in the shape of a cow, could understand that the king was a directly empowered incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the king knew everything, past, present, and future. Thus there was no possibility of the earth cheating him. The earth was accused of hiding the seeds of all herbs and grains, and therefore she is preparing to explain how the seeds of these herbs and grains can be again exposed. The earth knew that the king was very angry with her, and she realized that unless she pacified his anger, there was no possibility of placing a positive program before him. Therefore, in the beginning of her speech, she very humbly presents herself as a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's body. She submits that the various bodily forms manifest in the physical world are but different parts and parcels of the Supreme gigantic body. It is said that the lower planetary systems are parts and parcels of the legs of the Lord, whereas the upper planetary systems are part and parcels of the Lord's head. The Lord creates this material world by his external energy, but this external energy is in one sense not different from him. Yet at the same time, the Lord is not directly manifest in the external energy, but is always situated in the spiritual energy. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti. Material nature is working under the direction of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord is not unattached to the external energy, and he is addressed in this verse as Guna Atma, the source of the three modes of material nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 13.15, Nirgunam Guna Bhaktri Cha. Although the Lord is not attached to the external energy, he is nonetheless the master of it. The philosophy of Lord Chaitanya, upholding that the Lord is simultaneously one with and different from his creation, Achintya Bedha Beda Tattva, is very easily understandable in this connection. The planet Earth explains that although the Lord is attached to the external energy, he is nirduta. He is completely free from the activities of the external energy. The Lord is always situated in his internal energy. Therefore, in this verse, it is stated, Sarupa Anubhavina. The Lord remains completely in his internal potency, and yet has full knowledge of the external energy as well as the internal energy. Just as his devotee remains always in a transcendental position, keeping himself in the service of the Lord without becoming attached to the material body. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the devotee who is always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is always liberated, regardless of his material situation. If it is possible for a devotee to remain transcendental, it is certainly possible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to remain in his internal potency without being attached to the external potency. There should be no difficulty in understanding this situation. Just as a devotee is never bewildered by his material body, the Lord is never bewildered by the external energy of this material world. A devotee is not hampered by the material body. Although he is situated in a physical body that runs according to so many material conditions, just as there are 5 kinds of air functioning within the body, and so many organs, the hands, legs, tongue, genitals, rectum, etc., all working differently. The spirit soul, the living entity, who is in full knowledge of his position, is always engaged in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and is not concerned with the bodily functions. Although the Lord is connected with the material world, he is always situated in his spiritual energy, and is always unattached to the functions of the material world. As far as the material body is concerned, there are 6 waves, or symptomatic material conditions: hunger, thirst, lamentation, bewilderment, old age, and death. The liberated soul is never concerned with these 6 physical interactions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the all-powerful master of all energies, has some connection with the external energy, but he is always free from the interactions of the external energy in the material world. Text 30. The planet Earth continued, "My dear Lord, you are the complete conductor of the material creation. You have created this cosmic manifestation and the 3 material qualities, and therefore you have created me, the planet Earth, the resting place of all living entities. Yet you are always fully independent, my Lord. Now that you are present before me and ready to kill me with your weapons, please let me know where I should go to take shelter, and tell me who can give me protection." Purport. The planet Earth herein exhibits the symptoms of full surrender before the Lord. As stated, no one can protect the person whom Krishna is prepared to kill, and no one can kill the person whom Krishna protects. Because the Lord was prepared to kill the planet Earth, there was no one to give protection to her. We are all receiving protection from the Lord, and it is therefore proper that every one of us surrender unto Him. In Bhagavad Gita 1866, the Lord instructs, "Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma shuchaha." Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, "My dear Lord, whatever I have, even my mind, the center of all material necessities, namely my home, my body, and whatever I have in connection with this body, I now surrender unto you. You are now completely independent to act however you like. If you like, you can kill me, and if you like, you can save me. In any case, I am your eternal servant, and you have every right to do whatever you like." A nice translation of that verse by Prabhupada. Text 31. In the beginning of creation, you created all these moving and non-moving living entities by your inconceivable energy. Through this very same energy, you are now preparing to protect the living entities. Indeed, you are the same protector of religious principles. Why are you so anxious to kill me, even though I am in the form of a cow? Purport. The planet Earth argues that there is no doubt that one who creates can also annihilate by his sweet will. The planet Earth questions, why should she be killed when the Earth is prepared to give protection to everyone? After all, it is the Earth that is the resting place for all of the living entities. And it is the Earth that produces grains for them. Text 32. My dear Lord, although you are one, by your inconceivable potencies, you have expanded yourself in many forms. Through the agency of Brahma, you have created this universe. You are therefore directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are not sufficiently experienced cannot understand your transcendental activities because these persons are covered by your illusory energy. Covered by what? Just checking. Just checking. Purport. God is one, but he expands himself in variety of energies. The material energy, the spiritual energy, the marginal energy, and so forth. Unless one is favored, and especially allowed with grace, and unless one is favored, and especially endowed with grace, he cannot understand how the one Supreme Personality of Godhead acts through his different energies. The living entities are also the marginal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahma is also one of those living entities, but he is especially empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Brahma is supposed to be the creator of this universe, actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is its ultimate creator. In this verse, the word Maya is significant. Maya means energy. Lord Brahma is not the energetic, but is one of the manifestations of the Lord's marginal energy. In other words, Lord Brahma is only an instrument. Although sometimes plans appear contradictory, there is a definite plan behind all action. One who is experienced and is favored by the Lord can understand that everything is being done according to the Lord's supreme plan. And we will stop the reading there. Hare Krishna. Lots of deep and emotionally poignant points being made in these prayers by the Lord, to the Lord by the earth, and the exchanges between the earth and the Lord. So, anybody have something, anything, any point that stuck out, anything you want to have me to? Okay. Carter, you've got the floor and the mic.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you. It may be somewhat of a silly question, but when it says that the earth assumed the form of a cow, does it mean the globe itself changed into a cow, or just personified a cow?
Each planet has a predominating deity, and that predominating deity can be him or herself, the planet, and at the same time has a form, a personified form. Yeah. Okay. Or both. Or both. And that predominating deity of the planets, they have mystic power, and they can change their forms if they'd like.
So it wasn't from globe to earth cow?
No.
Okay. So I was wanting to clear for my head.
But we say, everybody says Mother Earth.
Yeah.
And there are philosophies that describe, the Earth as a living organism. Actually, every energy has personification in the spiritual world. Yes, Hannah. All right.
Is it possible to know their personality? Like for example, sometimes whenever I walk into the Tulsi room, they feel like loving and sweet, like a girl. Is that possible, or is that my imagination?
No, it's not imagination at all. Tulsi is a eternal pure devotee of Krishna, and she has a form in the spiritual world, female, eternally, and that's why she's so sweet. And her service is to serve the Lord as prasadam. One of her services is to serve the Lord, his prasadam. And she's very attached to him, obviously. So one day she came to the Lord and she prayed, I have one benediction, please fulfill it. And Krishna feels obliged, because that's the way it is in the spiritual world. If a devotee comes to the Lord, he feels obliged, and then he satisfies the devotee. That's the way it is. He's controlled by the devotee's love. So she said, I want to be able to be wherever you are. So then Krishna thought for a second, and he said, that's very difficult. Wherever I go a lot of places. And then he thought of his deity forms in the material world, which is, there's thousands and millions of them. But he felt obliged, so he said, all right, you may appear in the material world as the tulsi plant. So a tulsi plant isn't an ordinary plant where there's one soul in each different plant body. It's the same soul in all those plant bodies. And then Narada Muni, through the instructions of Narada Muni and others even before him, because this is an eternal pastime, made the rule in deity worship, the regulations of Pancharatrika Vidhi, that you can't offer an offering to Krishna, especially the installed deity of Krishna, without at least the leaf of the tulsi plant being offered with the bhoga. Just a second while Maya starts to protest. It doesn't make any difference what you say, it's still true. So that's why, definitely, Prabhupada called Tulsi the barometer of our bhakti. And if our bhakti is the devotion is very sweet and very nice in Tulsi's place, then she can be appear in very wonderful forms. And if she's neglected, she can very delicate, very sensitive. She can kind of retract and. Is that something?
This is so sweet.
Yes, absolutely. And then Haridas Thakur, he used to chant his 300,000 names, that's 192 rounds, in front of Tulsi. And then when the prostitute came to entice him those 3 nights, after she surrendered finally, she asked for shelter, initiation, and he said, all right, chant Hare Krishna. That was the initiation. And you stay here where I have been chanting, and you plant a Tulsi tree, and worship the Tulsi tree, and chant 192 rounds a day.
She did it.
Yeah. Something else? Anything from cyberspace today? Sunday, they're all doing spiritual festivals. Prthu Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Are these social classes still prevalent?
Wait, we have Dr. Janaki is asking a question.
I could speak loud enough. Are the social classes still in existence today and still prevalent?
Yeah, of course. We see them everywhere. They were created by Krishna, Chaturvarna Miyashistam Gunakarma Vibhakasha. It's not that there aren't social classes. There automatically are social classes everywhere. Even the communist system is trying to make a classless society. There are classes. There are people that like to work with their hands and like to do things like that, work. There are people who like to lead. There are people who like to think. There are people who like to make money and do banking and trade and all that kind of stuff. Those are the social classes that are built into the material world. But what the Varnashram system means is that those activities are done according to the person's actual propensities In the material world, it's all mixed up. Now, the pressure, the social pressure coming from demoniac leaders is forcing, everything's for profit. It wasn't everything for profit in those days, during the real Varnashram system. So now, all the young people are being forced by social pressure and the pressure for acceptability, for approval. They have to go to university, and many of them want to take those, courses which will allow them to make a lot of money, a doctor, or engineer, or high-tech person, or whatever. And but not all of the young people are suited for that. So it's guna karma. The social classes in the Varnashram system it's organized in a way that the babies, or not babies, the boys and girls, their propensities are seen by their nature. And by that nature, they're directed by their superiors to the things that they can do and like to do. Mm-hmm. Not just they like to do, but they can do.
So you're not necessarily, but back then you were born in it, though.
Well, in the original state, yes. But as the modes of nature started to combine, and the modes of passion and ignorance became confused or more combined in different ways, then the modes combine together, so there are no people completely in goodness or completely in passion.
So that's when the exploitation started.
Yes, and ignorance becomes more and more prominent. Yeah. There's always combinations, but when ignorance becomes very prominent, then the goodness becomes, covered. Mm-hmm. This is described in the Gita, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. In 14th chapter. Yeah. Sometimes goodness becomes prominent and dominates over ignorance and passion. Sometimes passion dominates over goodness and ignorance. Sometimes ignorance dominates over passion and goodness. So now, in the Kali Yuga, ignorance is very prominent. So now, all the different, the politicians, they're in ignorance. The businessmen, they're in ignorance. So the whole thing's becoming very confused. Mm. The qualities that we hear about, the Brahmanas' qualities, the pure Brahmanas' qualities, and the pure Kshatriya's qualities, you can't see those today. Therefore, it doesn't make sense. And therefore, we think, it's a myth or something like that. I mean, they make some pretty far out movies about warriors, for instance, from previous times, who were very, very chivalrous and very virile and very powerful and very heroic, and would go out into the front of the armies and, lead the charge and win the war and all those kinds of things. Yes, Chris.
I was struck by the verse that said that even Brahma was created as an instrument to do God's will. Yeah. And so if it's true of Brahma, it's true for all of us. Yes. And so this is very consistent with the story of the Bhagavad Gita, yes, where we do the role that you have chosen, or that has been chosen for you, through the talents and abilities that you were born with. Absolutely, express them.
What's the words of the Gita exactly? Do you remember?
No.
What will repression accomplish? All people are forced to act by the modes of nature according to their nature has been given to them by their body and mind. What will repression accomplish?
It will destroy us.
Yeah, and it does. And it has. And
if you don't express what's inside of you, if you express it, it will keep you alive. If you don't, it will destroy you.
Well, time destroys us, but that's the way it is externally. Hare Krishna. Only God can destroy us, because only Krishna can. Krishna creates us, therefore only Krishna can destroy us.
But he wants us to express that which was inside of us.
Yeah, he wants us to love him. He doesn't want us to just express what's inside of us. He wants us to love him. And when we express what's inside of us, outside of love for him, then we contribute to the confusion.
Contribute to the confusion?
Yes. Because if the things that we like to do and want to do are done for the satisfaction of Krishna, for his satisfaction rather than my sense gratification, then the laws of nature cooperate and everything works properly. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm going to stop now because we want everyone to go to the spiritual program in the temple. Thank you so much. Prthu Maharaj ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta-vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, USA. Hare Krishna.